Hey everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres, and obviously I'm back in the dining room, great room, craft room, call it what you want. The other day, I talked about the fact that I have a bunch of things to do. I have flags to make, I have banners to make, all kinds of things. So today I'm going to get started on that. Table's been completely cleared off and dusted. That's something you have to do every day here because the dust, it comes. And I am ready to pattern my flags that I want to make. Now, the first time I ever made these, I just decided to wing it. The things I was thinking about were how tall I wanted the flag to be when it was on the flagpole and how far I wanted that flag to drape down. One of my concerns was, because I've seen this happen before, sometimes people make super extra long flags, and while they look really cool, the end of the flag, this part that gets ragged after a while, can actually whip in the wind and smack into people, and that's a no-no. So what I actually did was figure out how tall my poles were going to be and how far I wanted that flag bottom to come down. I didn't want it to be a problem for people who were walking past the shop getting smacked with a flag. And I didn't want it to be a problem for us going in and out of the shop being smacked with a flag. So I chose a length. I also had to figure out how wide the sleeve was going to be in order to fit on the pole. Not brain surgery. I looked at the size of the sleeve, made it a bit larger because making a sleeve too small is never a cool idea. And then I said, okay, what else do I need to do to make this really sturdy? And my answer was, I have to be able to attach it to the pole. I don't want to have to do fussy things like 9 million attachments. I want it to look good, as in disappear, basically. And I don't want it to shred the fabric really easily. So my solution with that was one of those metal eyelets that you put in. I picked this up at E.O. Buck's big box store, and couldn't tell you which one at this point. I've seen things like this at Joann's. I've seen them at Michael's. I don't shop at Hobby Lobby, but I've seen them a lot of different places. And in this case, it says on the end here, because I want this to be readable when it's in my storage container, it says snaps and grommets. And that's exactly what it is. It's a collection of the metal snaps that you would put on like cowboy shirts, grommets that you would put on whatever you needed the grommet for. And I simply took it comes with everything. And the hardest part about it is opening the box because it's designed to not accidentally let you spill it. It comes with a lock. See, this closes. You put that on there like that. It keeps it from popping up so it'll actually fit in there. And it just has the little bits and pieces of grommets, and it comes with instructions. I mean, it's not brain surgery. Do you have to do this? No. If I had not had grommets, I've always had grommets and snaps since my kids were little, because when I used to make the little pants that you put on kids that are still in diapers that have the snaps in the legs, that's what I used to do. I used to put snaps on them. The ones I had back then didn't come with a cool squisher. You had to use a hammer. But whether you're using a hammer or a squisher or whatever, it's not hard. You don't have to use any kind of a grommet. I could have used an eyelet that I sewed with my machine. Or I could have chosen to double up the fabric there, which I did do anyway. You'll see there's an extra piece inside here. I could have chosen to double up the fabric and sew around it by hand and then make a hole through it. Lots of solutions. I wanted this to last until it got too faded for me to want to use. That was my simple reasoning. Let me get the pole out of the way here. Oops. I have this big stack of supplies for various projects right now. So, since this worked really well for me, all I'm going to do is copy it. I don't see any reason to reinvent the wheel. If you were to look at this, you would see one edge is straight and the other edge is on an angle. And my recollection of how I made this was I laid out my fabric. I decided how tall I wanted the flag to be. It's about 3 feet. I'll actually measure it to see. It's probably originally based on how wide the fabric was. And then I just literally, if this is my top selvage, this is my edge, I literally just drew a line like that. Because I knew this would work. I could have done it in a different shaped triangle. I was trying to maximize fabric so that I would have the other half of this to use to replace. And theoretically I do, and it was put away someplace so incredibly safe that I couldn't find it. And because I don't have time to go through 75 boxes of fabric in order to find it, and I don't have quite that many, I probably only have 30 boxes of fabric, yeah, I decided I would just simply buy the fabric. It's not that expensive. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to actually check the width of this, because I suspect that when I look at the width of this, yeah, this is a selvage here, and this is a selvage here. So all I did was take the width of the fabric, which is probably the same width as this fabric, because it's the same brand. This is Silk Essence. It was recommended highly to me, and that's exactly what it is. Yep. It was recommended highly to me by somebody who makes a lot of banners and flags and things like that for decorative purposes at events. And they said, you know, I had learned to do this years ago using plain white silk, and then you dye the background, and then you put designs on it and all kinds of stuff, and it was a lot of fun, but it's very time consuming, and I wasn't necessarily trying to create something with a lot of symbolism on it. I just wanted something, because you can create some great symbolic things that way. I just wanted a bright thing that flapped in the wind and caught people's attention. So all I have to do in order to make this work is basically replicate. So I had, let's see, and this, since this was actually a selvage edge, I can just measure that down, leaving a little extra for the roll over there, and we'll see about what this turned out to be. This is a little shredded, so I can see where the end used to be. If I roll this over, I know the edge of the fabric sort of falls off the table there. If I were to bring it over, you'd be able to see that this is the selvage edge that I simply rolled, and this is the on a diagonal edge, and it does meet at the end here. So what I can do is I can get a tape measure, I can measure that, and I'll know how long a piece I need. I honestly don't remember how many yards I bought the last time, although I suspect it's the same number of yards I have this time. Sometimes you're just like, okay, this will work. You know, it's not broke. We always say it's not broken, so don't fix it. So I may have ordered a little extra this time because I couldn't remember and I didn't want to get caught short. But let's see. Let's make a good guesstimate here. This is not brain surgery. It does not have to be precise. If I make a slightly shorter banner than I had last time, the world will not even think about ending. On the other hand, if I make a banner that's really super too much longer than the last one, it might start to get in the way. I seem to have a half a yard, I'm guessing that's a half a yard, longer than the one I had last time. Let's take a look. And it may have been due to what was available in the store. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a half a yard longer than last time. Decisions. Okay. Like I say, it's not brain surgery. Don't overthink this. I didn't overthink it last time. All I did was decide how long it was going to be and make it that length. And that's what I'm going to do this time too. I'm going to keep a little extra here because I do want to be able to roll this to make a nice sleeve. And at this end, this is shredded off, literally shredded. So it might have been a smidge longer than this. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at how wide this winds up being approximately. And the answer is going to be 5 inches approximately, maybe 6. And I'm going to back off this end by 5 or 6 inches. And then I'm going to simply make a cut on the diagonal. And that is going to be my flag. I believe that's exactly what I did last time. And it worked last time, so, you know. Why not? Okay. Trying to remember, because I don't, because this was a long time ago. Let's see if I come up here 6 inches. And like I say, this is not brain surgery, so don't overthink it. I'm going to mark it with a pin. One of the things that people do sometimes when they're doing this kind of stuff is they get too wrapped up in themselves. And they're like, oh, it has to be exactly precise. When you have a flag that is flying on top of a 10-foot pole or more, being precise is less necessary than if you had a flag that was like this big and handled right in front of your face. This is simply there to make a cool flappy design. I'm trying to remember, because I don't. Let's see. I don't remember doing math in order to get this, so I assume I didn't. You know, it's like I say, you weren't supposed to make this into a giant project. So I probably took a piece of chalk, which I'm getting right now. She said optimistically. Where'd my chalk go? Oh, there's some. Let's see if this one's working today. Yeah, it is working. I like using chalk because it doesn't leave a permanent mark. It is also possible to use lots of other things. There is an erasable magic marker, and I don't know if I've got one handy. It was promoted for quilters a while back. The way you get rid of the mark is you iron it. Now, you might say, well, that's great, but what happens if I need that mark back? You throw it in the freezer. The cold will bring it back, the heat will take it away. Now, it eventually washes out, so it doesn't hang around forever. But it's certainly long enough to let you get any kind of work done that you need to get done. I have in my possession PVC pipe because this is part of a quilt frame. Doesn't everyone have PVC pipe quilt frames? They should. Let's see. If I go down about 6 inches, all I want to do is eyeball this. I want to have the the drape right, but it doesn't need to be precise. So I'm going to sort of mark it. I wonder if I actually used the length of the table plus the back of the sofa. I have been known to use stranger things. Years and years ago, I did a project for a skating club. My kids were competitive figure skaters at the time, and we had a team, mostly female with 1 or 2 males, that did what they call precision skating. And it's, you know, like the Rockettes except on ice. You do stuff in unison, and then, you know, you skate around one another and all that kind of stuff. And it was great fun. The kids loved it, but they needed outfits, and people had budgets, so they would get a leotard or something like that, and then some foolish parental unit would volunteer to make outfits, which I did. And one of my projects was to create, I want to say it was a can routine of some sort, so Folie Bergère sort of thing. And we had a need for a lot of skirts with ruffles on them. And at the time, we had a wool rug, throw rug, a big one, in the living room. And I discovered that the fabric we were using would stick beautifully to that rug. And what I'd do is I'd vacuum the bejesus out of the rug, ban everybody from the living room, and lay out the fabric because it would stick to the rug. And I could stick it to the rug, cut it, and then I have a ruffler that goes on one of my machines, and I would simply create long strips of probably 6-inch wide fabric and ruffle and ruffle and ruffle until every skirt had a ruffle that went down the side, around the bottom, and up again, because it was a wrap skirt. Yeah, it worked. Lots of ruffles.